Hey everybody, Shaun Stevenson here, author of the Throne series, and I have a question for you. Would you want to stay the night in an Egyptian exhibit in a museum where the King Tut's curse might actually be real? That's what happens in Spine Chillers number 9, Tuck Me In, Mummy. So this book, Tuck Me In, Mummy, oh my goodness. We've got to talk about it. So let's talk about it. Now, in this book, this is book number 9 in the Spine Chillers Mysteries series, or Spine Chillers, as it was previously called before it was retitled to Spine Chillers Mysteries. In book number 9, Tuck Me In, Mummy, this one is all about how these 4 kids go to stay the night in a museum at an Egyptian exhibit for King Tut. And while they are staying there, they are talking about the curse of King Tut's tomb and how so many people died mysteriously during that time when they opened up the tomb, and people who have used the different items in the exhibit to put on display have died mysteriously. So the kids are wondering, is there a curse based around King Tut? Now, while I was reading this book, there are some interesting feelings that I had, because the first 3 chapters, and again, this is a non-spoiler review, but I feel like I have to say this little piece about the first 3 chapters in order to set you up for the book. I was super confused by the first 3 chapters, because we start right away inside this tomb with the mummies chasing after the main 4 kids. And I thought, wait, did I miss something? How are we already in the tomb? I thought we were going to a museum. Like, what's happening here? And I was legit really confused about what was going on and how the characters had gotten to this place. And so I was wondering, did I get a misprint book? Is this skipping ahead? What's going on? Well, come to find out, in chapter 4, we have a whole brand new set of 4 kids who they are watching a movie that is the first 3 chapters of the book. Because most of the Spine Chillers books are told from first person point of view, and so it switches in chapter 4 to first person point of view. And I thought, wait a second, where are we at? What's happening now? Because this seems different even than what we were just in. Come to find out that they had been watching a movie and it was just barely explained in that 4th chapter. So I will admit, a little bit confused about the beginning of this book. So sometimes in Spine Chillers books, there are 1 or 2 main characters, and I feel like those are usually the best setup when there's maybe 1 or 2 main characters and the others are all side characters. In this book, you have the main girl, Jessica, her twin brother, and their 2 friends who are all in the book throughout the whole thing. And I will admit, I kind of lost track of who was who after a while, because the characters are all similarly named, like Becca and Jessica and Adam and Ben, and so I just kind of lost track of who was who during the book, and I couldn't even remember the main character's name at first, because I thought, wait, what is her name again? I know that she's the brother, the twin brother, and the dad is the Egyptologist. This is confusing. So I was kind of confused. Once I got through all that, I actually ended up liking this book, and I would put it in the mid-tier of Spine Chillers books. I think it was a lot of fun. There were some good little scary moments. There were some creepy things. I actually was very interested in all the storytelling about King Tut, and I felt like that was some of the creepiest parts of this book, when the dad, who is an Egyptologist, is talking to the kids about the curse of King Tut's tomb. And so he's telling them the stories about how these people had died when they opened the tomb, and I felt like that was the scariest part of the book. Later on, the kids do get to stay the night in the museum, and they are being chased by the mummy. And so they have to stay away from the mummy, and to find out what happens, you got to read it. So the characters, I will admit, one interesting thing in this book, this was the first book that I remember of the Spine Chillers books where a main character is praying pretty much throughout the book. The idea of fear and growing through fear and facing your fears is still here in this one, but the main character, Jessica, she is constantly praying and asking for help, which I thought was kind of an interesting dynamic in these books, which hasn't happened before. So she is praying, asking for help, and what I appreciate so much about that is sometimes in Christian fiction, there are parts where characters pray for help and then it's like instantly something happens. So for instance, this happens in like the Mandy books all the time. The main characters will pray and ask for help when they're stuck in like a cave, and all of a sudden, right as they say amen, a shaft of light shines down on the exit, sort of things. And so I appreciated that in this book, when the characters do pray and ask for help, it's not like that. There are still dangerous moments, there are still things that are happening, they still have to get away, but they often are growing through their emotions and being able to say, okay, I can do this because I know God is with me. That was more the character growth than all of a sudden some miracle happening where God just takes care of it. So I appreciated that about this book quite a bit. I will say this one, I was talking to my brother right after I finished it, and he did not like this one quite as much as I did. He felt like he could guess it very easily, and I will admit I could guess what was going on pretty quickly based on some hints that are dropped early on, but I still had a lot of fun reading this one, and I think I chalk that up to I really love stories about Egypt and Egyptology, and so I think it's a lot of fun to read. So that aspect of it really got me going. I also was really reminded while reading this book of Peg Kiert's Danger at the Zoo. And I told my brother about that. I said, that book is kind of like this one. In Danger at the Zoo, two kids are staying the night at the zoo. And then while they're staying the night, there's someone there who is after them. And so they have to stay away while they're still trapped in the zoo. Just like in this book, they're trapped in the museum and they have to stay away from the mummy. So I kind of had that nostalgia going on while I was reading this one, and I was really kind of enjoying that. So I had a lot of fun with this book. It's definitely not your top tier spine chillers, but it was a good solid middle tier spine chillers book. So for the ranking, I give this book a solid 3.5 stars out of 5. I think it was a lot of fun. It's a good entry in this series. There's not as much 90s nostalgia here, but if you're fans of Egypt or Egyptology, or you have kids who are into Egypt, this is a great fun read. So have you read Tuck Me In Mummy, Spine Chillers number 9 by Fred E. Katz? Let me know in the comments below if you've ever read this series or read this book. Have you ever read any other books about Egypt that are kind of fun and a little creepy? Let me know. I'd love to read them. I love these kinds of books. So let me know what else you're reading, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Bye, everybody.